Jeff and Brian, congrats so much on the film. It's really special. I went in, expecting to laugh, also cried a bit. It was a very emotional movie. It really got me good. So, yeah, Brian, I wanted to ask, and Jeff, if you ever want to chime in, please do. But Dante's going through a lot of grief in this film, and we all go through loss, so it's inherently relatable. But what about Dante's journey here really resonated with you, Brian?
I've had loss in my own family. My father passed away when I was 15. I've had good friends pass away over the years. So the connection to family loss, I can relate to, but also the loss of an impending child is very sad. I've had friends whose wives have had miscarriages, which is a horrible thing, but to lose not only Becky in this case and their potential daughter Grace. When you delve into what really has hit Dante, who had hit the lottery because as it said in the second one, look at you, you have two girls fighting over you and you're the hideous fucking chud. So in a way, to portray that kind of feeling, I had to delve into some sort of memories of people who I've known and lost over the years.
Yeah, it really comes together beautifully in the film. And Jeff, your character is doing some soul searching and reassesses his life after a heart attack. I know you were hesitant about doing Clerks 2, let alone a third film. So what about this storyline really convinced you that, this was worth doing and was a great, use of Randall?
Um, you know, uh, Prior to shooting the script that we shot, there was a previous script of it, a previous version of Clerks 3 that didn't get made. And that script was sort of a very disjointed script. It didn't feel like it sort of belonged in the Clerks world. It was a very dark script. I've said when I read it, it sort of felt unsatisfying to me. And ultimately, I think the fans wouldn't have been satisfied with it. Um, Kind of the storyline is almost the same without giving too much away. But when I originally agreed to do the new one, uh, Kevin and I sort of just got together and had a meeting, and Kevin's enthusiasm for it was so infectious. It was hard to sort of not get sort of swept up into his enthusiasm for it. And knowing that it was sort of his story, and going through sort of the stuff that he really went through in his life, you could tell that it was a lot more personal to Kevin, and you could tell that he fought a lot harder for this script. I mean, fought me a lot harder for this script to do it. I would say it was Kevin's enthusiasm that sort of gave me a shove.
That's great. And it turned out, the fans love it. And Brian, you share some really great scenes with Rosario Dawson, who doesn't look like she's aged a day since Clerks 2. How was it filming with her again?
Yeah, she's like got that Benjamin Button disease. I think she's getting younger as the years go on. She's always amazing to work with. She was incredibly amazing to work with on the second one. And so whenever you get someone of that talent playing opposite you, you cannot help but make sure you're trying to put out the best product, so to speak, as you can do. So since she was so giving to me in these very emotionally tough scenes, I was very grateful to have that kind of recourse and rapport with her. That she's awesome. It's just so great, and she's a cool person in general. We got to obviously hang out and do a lot more in the second movie. So for have her come back, and we only had her for literally like a day and a half, and to do those four key scenes that we had together was great. It's a shame that she couldn't be a part of the rest of the cast and have interactions with Randall or interactions with Trevor playing Elias or something. But what she did give us was absolutely pure gold, and I was glad that I was able to connect with that.
Yeah, the scenes really anchor the film. And Jeff, it's awesome. The quick stop looks exactly the same. How is it going back to New Jersey to film again? That had to be like a bit surreal because it's like a time capsule. Like so much has changed, but that looks just like it did.
Yeah, the store itself has not changed a bit. The only thing that's changed is they have a new sort of counter that has a lot of pot paraphernalia. That's the only thing that's sort of updated in that store. But yeah, no, I really like the idea of sort of wrapping this up back where it started. For me, when I reflect back on these movies, Clerks II sort of feels like almost like a Dante and Randal adventure film. They left the store and they went out into the world and had this own separate time and a whole separate world and everything else. But coming back to the store was really, it just felt right. It felt like, being back there, the store is the same. The feel of the store is the same. And being there filming, I know there was a lot of times where I had those pinch me moments like, oh my God, it's 30 years later. And here we are. My feet are still sticking to the floor in the quick stop. So it was a little surreal. Yeah.
That's incredible. And Brian, this was such a perfect way to kind of close out, the Clerks series, and it was emotional watching as a fan. So how has it been, seeing the fan reaction to, Dante's journey and Clerks finishing up?
Yeah, it's been wonderful. It's been an emotional roller coaster, definitely. I got to see like 5 or 6 of the live roadshow screenings of the film. I'll be seeing 4 or 5 more of the cities in the coming weeks as well. And then they, usually every night after there's a screening, like we just had 2 nights in Toronto, my social media starts blowing up with messages from the fans like, "Oh my God, what a sad way to go," and "Oh my God, you guys did a great job," and "Oh, give these guys all the awards," those kind of things. And it's been very nice to see it. There are some people who in every fan base has this where, "Why would you do that? Why? Oh my God, that's such a horrible way to go," blah, blah, blah. So, but it's been really, really positive. I'd say at least like, 96% positive response to what's been going on. And so I'm happy that it is. I'm glad that now the folks who couldn't catch it on, in the theaters when it was out in the general release and the road show have the opportunity now with the digital release and the upcoming Blu-ray and DVD release in December. Should be fun.
Definitely. And Jeff, the Clerks fandom has been so passionate. So what has it meant to you that they've been supporting you for almost 30 years and that this series has been so supported that it's been able to tell meaningful stories, throughout 3 decades?
Yeah, that's been really the most amazing part of this whole journey. I just recently, in the past year, started doing the con scene, and it's sort of my first time sort of being out there and interacting with the fans. And I just have to say that the love that you get from them is so like incredibly heartwarming. And, you hear all these stories, a lot of military guys who were overseas watching these movies, and, they express how it helped them get through some really difficult situations and people just difficult situations in life. And, like I said, it's sort of my first interaction. I don't have social media or anything like that. So this was sort of my first interaction with people. And it's just incredible the amount of love we get for it. I don't think I've had one negative experience with a fan in 30 years. They're probably all going to line up now. But largely it's been pretty positive, and it is like a very surreal thing. Like sometimes you lay down at night and you sort of reflect on it and you go, gee whiz, like I can't believe this little crappy movie that we made so long ago still affects people. It's been really, it's been an incredible journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Brian, this film has so many great cameos, especially during the audition scene. How was it watching all these great actors, like reading your iconic "I'm not even supposed to be here today" line? Because that had to be wild.
Yeah, it was one of the first things we shot in the filming process. We had gone to the original theater, the First Avenue Playhouse, where we actually did all audition for the original Clerks. And we got a few people to come down to do that. The guys from Impractical Jokers came down that day, and we had a few others. A few of the other ones, their schedules didn't quite work out, so they had reshot those. They replicated that kind of background in LA at a a studio, and we're able to get people like Ben Affleck and Fred Armisen and all the rest that you see that pop up in it, and Danny Trejo and others. So what we got to see was a lot of the East Coast based actors, which were the Practical Jokers, Brian Quinn and Joe and all Sal and all those guys, and Murr. And so when seeing it, it was pretty funny. And then finally seeing it in the finished film, it was hilarious.
That's great. And Jeff, the meta aspect of the film is so much fun. What was the most difficult scene for you to recreate?
To recreate. I don't know if it was difficult. I don't know that there was a difficult scene to recreate. Probably the most difficult part of recreating the scenes is like before we'd go shoot, you'd sort of look at the original scene on an iPad and sort of we'd run through the scene maybe to sort of get the mannerisms and stuff. But it was really freaky to shoot the scenes and then to sort of go back to the monitor and watch the scene and realize like how much it really does look like the first scene. But for the fact that we're now ancient, but it was sort of surreal redoing those scenes. It was a very, the whole process. I don't know that you can get it across in words and make people understand it just because we've lived this for so long. And to go back and sort of, I don't know that there's another film that has gone back 30 years later and recreated the same film. So it's just the whole process of it and sort of watching it play out. I mean, just they custom made the sweater for Dante that he wore in the first one. Just seeing Brian walk out of his trailer in that sweater, in his pants, in the Doc Martens. I mean, it was just like a mind blowing, like I felt like I was on mushrooms.
Definitely. I mean,
which isn't a bad thing.
Like trying to replicate the independent contractors conversation with that actor Thomas. Now that guy Thomas, the actual actor from that scene, was there, still had the jacket, still had the hat from the very first film, and we would stand there at the counter, and like Jeff said, they'd be looking at an iPad and then saying, Brian, move a little bit further to the right. Okay, now tilt this way. And then literally they'd look at the monitors side by side, and here's modern Brian looking at 1993 behind, camera Brian, and it was just very freaky, definitely.
And then my last question, Brian, Trevor's Elias is just going through a lot in this film. How was it just seeing him come to set each day with just the most ridiculous look, and it just got more and more wild throughout the film?
Well, it started in the script where Kevin, when Kevin wrote the script, to see this change in the Elias character, all he wrote was Elias shows up in a heavy metal t-shirt. That was it. And then Trevor took it from there, and he's like, oh, he should do more kind of clothing. Like this is how he thinks, worshiping Satan is about. And then he said, I want at the end in the funeral scene to have a cane and a cape. And Kevin's like, well, I gotta get you there somehow. We can't just go from you having a metal t-shirt to you having a cane and cape. And then this was the great genius of both, Trevor, hair and makeup, and the costumer. You had Allie, who was our costumer, Angie, who was our hair person, and then of course we had Sasha and Fiona in our makeup department. Really put in the work and have fun. They actually had a blast. So, coming to the costumer, saying what would have been 4 things that Trevor's character changes into, we now have to do 15 to 20 things. Oh, and by the way, Blockchain is also his sidekick, is going to have to duplicate these type of looks as well. So put a lot on them. So big ups to hair, makeup, and costume department for pulling off what Trevor just said. I want a cane and a cape at the end.
I think Kevin's pot use made him a little more agreeable than he probably should have been, letting Trevor run with some of those outfits.
Yes, thanks.
Our shooting, I'm surprised we didn't go over schedule, because there would literally be times that we would be on set and Trevor would say, I want to do this. And we would all have to sort of pause while they pulled it together. So Kevin was a little, maybe a skosh too agreeable to Trevor's things, but it all worked out well in the end.